We've all followed the ups and downs of the Broncos over the years. We may have thought that we had a handle on who should be recruited, who should play, what the final score should have been, and how much a player should have been paid. It's my pleasure to introduce a man who truly knows the business side of the Denver Broncos and the NFL. He has held the position of COO of the Denver Broncos for just over 2 years. Before that, he was the club's Executive Vice President of Business Operations, a position he held for 10 years. Joe's background also includes serving on the NFL's Vice President of Club Administration and Stadium Management, and he played a pivotal role in the creation of Invesco Field at Mile High and the league's oversight of the Cleveland Browns' re-entry into the NFL back in 1999. His expertise also includes physical planning, personnel management, marketing, media, and community relations, as well as overseeing the stadium management company, which operates Invesco Field at Mile High. Please help me welcome Joe Ellis to Club 31, and he'll also take questions at the end.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I appreciate the introduction, Larry. It's nice to see a few familiar faces here this afternoon. I started working in pro football back in 1983 out of 5800 Logan. One of your guests today, Bob Hurley, is in the back, was the treasurer of the Broncos at that time. And in fact, 1983 was the last time I was in this room at a Rotary luncheon, and a gentleman who is deceased named Bob Martin, a great radio announcer, was your guest speaker that day. And I bet maybe a few of you might have been here that day as well, 26 years ago. I've been fortunate enough to have a pretty lengthy career in pro football. It started with the Broncos in 1983. But I really was, for lack of a better word, a gopher for about 3 years. Did some promotional work, some marketing work, some operation work. Bob can attest that everybody sort of had their hands in a lot of different things back in those days. I then went back to graduate school and worked about a year away from football, and then got back into football in early 1990 with the National Football League. Pat Bowlen and then general manager of the team, John Beek, got me a position working for Commissioner Tagliabue's office, and I worked directly for 9 years for the current commissioner, Roger Goodell. So I had some good experience. I was very fortunate to travel the career path that I did to get to where I am here today. I came back in 1998. In the summer of '98, Pat Bowlen was negotiating with the Metropolitan Football Stadium District on a lease for the new stadium, and he asked for some assistance from Commissioner Tagliabue's office, and Roger Goodell and I came out here about 4 times in the summer, and as soon as we completed it, is that better there? I'm sorry about that. And in August of '98, as soon as we were done negotiating the lease for the new stadium here in Invesco Field at Mile High between the Broncos and the Metropolitan Football Stadium District, Pat asked me to come on board, and I started out as the Executive Vice President of Business Operations, and really in the first couple of years focused on the building of Invesco Field and all of the new business units and everything that came with that. And now I've been fortunate enough to have Pat's trust in him in the Chief Operating Officer's role, which I assumed last year. I know the business of the Broncos sounds exciting, but I'm sure everybody would like me to tell you something provocative about this past season. I told Pat I was going to be here today, and he said, well, I hope we get out of there alive. And that kind of reflects, I think, the attitude of the town, our fans, our owner, our head coach, our players, our organization. I think everybody was disappointed and discouraged by the way the season ended up. you start 6-0, you can't sugarcoat it, and then you go 2-8 in your last 10. It's a tough way to finish things up. Having said that, there's not much you can do, and our coach is good at recognizing this. But put your head down, work harder, and try and build a team that is going to get better and be competitive and enter the playoff pool in future years, hopefully next year. He's hard at work, the staff's hard at work. They're taking some time right now. They're trying to, everybody wants to let their emotions settle a little bit after the season, and we'll be back full bore trying to, reestablish the pattern of excellence that I think so many people in this town are used to and seek to have again. In terms of the business of the team, I'll sort of give you the background on where it is from a league standpoint, where we stand as an organization vis-a-vis the rest of the league. There are 32 teams, and total revenues for a team can run anywhere from $180 million to $340 million per club. So there's a pretty big disparity there. I will tell you that the 340, there may be a couple of teams in that category, so the bulk of the teams are somewhere in the 200 to 275 range, and we're closer to the higher end of that. We generate a lot of revenue as an organization, and it's largely due to everybody that buys our tickets and follows us and sponsors us and everything else. We have a tremendous following, tremendous support, and I know a lot of you are ticket holders, suite holders, etc. And for that, I do want to thank you. We are grateful for your support. I know that the season did not go the way that you wanted it to end, especially, but on behalf of Pat Boyd, it would be inappropriate of me if I didn't say thank you very much for your support. Of that revenue, about 46% of it is local, and this is slightly different than when Bob Hurley was the treasurer back in the day. The local revenue consists of tickets, and I'm including club seats, suites, and general admission tickets, sponsorship and media. We have a lot of local sponsorships that we do here with different companies. If you go to the stadium, you see the signs, and you see the programs around town, the platforms that we do with U.S. Bank and Coca-Cola and Budweiser and Coors and so on and so forth. Parking and concessions and miscellaneous stadium events. We have the operating rights to our building. So we do some events in our building, and it's a lot more than people realize. We do something like 245 events up in club lounges or in the locker room, or out in the parking lots. We do a lot of ride and drives and stuff. We charge for all of that. But the bulk of that money, of that 46%, the total 30% is tickets, 9% is sponsorship and media, about parking and concessions is about 3%, and then miscellaneous stadium events is 4%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in our business, when you're trying to, every dollar you're bringing in, you're trying to put it back into the team in the form of basically paying players, and I'll get to that in a moment. Every dollar counts coming in. On the national revenue side, most of you are familiar with this. National television and what we call I call it the toys and trinkets business, but it's a lot of the merchandise and some national sponsorships. All of that gets shared equally among the 32 teams. So on the TV side, we have national contracts with Fox Television, CBS, NBC for Sunday Night Football, and ESPN, and we also have our own network, the NFL network, and that makes up 50% of the club's revenue. It's a big, big number, and every single game that the NFL broadcasts is broadcast over the air in your home market, assuming that you're sold out. National revenues revenues on what we call again, I'll say the toys, the trinket side, the venture side. That's money coming from the league for your jackets, your hats, some national sponsorship programs, a few other things. That's about 4%. So you get that. That's a big piece of what I would call fixed revenue, and it really has been sort of the cornerstone of the league's success in terms of its revenue sharing plan. It's different from other leagues, of course, where they don't share nearly as much as what we share in terms of our total revenue. And I think it has been a foundation for success for the NFL.